the man who thinks he can. If you think you are beaten, you are.
Sorry, guys.
If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win, but you think you can't, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you'll lose, you've lost.
Lost power. Okay, I got screwed.
For out in this world we find success begins with a fellow's will.
I'm so grateful. Love conquers all.
It's all in the state of mind.
Tuck, 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 tuck. Yeah!
If you think you're outclassed, you are.
I haven't got much time left. I got no time left.
You've got to think high, to rise.
I'll push again.
You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win the prize.
It's a beautiful Sunday. Grande lavoro, grande.
Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. But sooner or later, the man who wins is the one who thinks he can.
The championship is reaching a climax. We've got 6 races to go, and here we are on the shores of the Black Sea, the sites of the Winter Olympics in 2014. And we're just over half an hour away from lights out for the Russian Grand Prix. Yes, welcome wherever you are watching us around the world. Welcome to the grid here in Russia. The cars just making their way out of the pit lane. As I said, 40 points is the difference between Hamilton and Vettel. But crucially, Paul, here we've seen Mercedes seemingly take a step forward and Ferrari fall back a little.
Yeah, they have. They've ramped that pressure up to Ferrari. They've capitalised on that outstanding performance by Hamilton, especially in Singapore. And they've come here and dominated the weekend. They brought upgrades. They never even put it on the car. They've just got good foundations there, and it certainly made Ferrari uncomfortable. It's not over yet, because you can see the narrowest of margins in qualifying. You can still make a great start, and the run to turn 2 here before you brake, we've saw already in the support races that it's not always key to be in that position, and Hamilton obviously started on the right-hand side as well. Yeah,
Mercedes starting, or they've locked out the front row of the grid for the 5th time this season, but actually this being the racing line for F2, you can see it's actually a drier side of the track. So there have been a few spats of rain around this morning here in Sochi as we approach lunchtime. Let's head into the pit lane. Ted Kravitz is there.
Yes, indeed, the pit lane is buzzing now. Hello, Privyet. Welcome to Russia for the Grand Prix. Now, this weekend, the story of the weekend, it's all about Mercedes, really. All about Mercedes. Ferrari came here. They hope they might be quick. They hope they might have the measure on Mercedes. Not a bit of it. We've seen the largest margin between Mercedes and Ferrari pretty much all season. But it's the second silver arrow there. Number 77 of Valtteri Bottas, who got the jump on Lewis Hamilton in qualifying. Bottas is a specialist round here. So it's a Mercedes silver arrows knockout. And with the Red Bulls having to start at the back with pesky engine penalties, it means that their only challenge for the race today will be Ferrari. But that is quite a challenge, because they can really slipstream the Mercedes down to turn 2. What can McLaren do? Fernando Alonso also takes a grid penalty. Just a quick word on strategy. Ultra soft is the way to go for the best strategy. Start on the purple tyre, take it to lap 15, then change onto the yellow soft tyre and go to the end of the race. But for the top 6 or so, the people starting on the pink tyre, that pink tyre you see on Alonso's McLaren, you can take that, but it'll only last you 9 or 10 laps, and then you've got to go on the soft tyre as well to the end. We'll just end here by saying happy birthday to him. Driver of car number 33, Max Verstappen, 21 today. What can he do from the back of the grid?
Yeah, plenty of engine penalties, which actually gave Q2 a fairly dull affair yesterday, and both of those Red Bulls at the back of the grid. But Brendan Hartley is taking new power unit elements too, and he will start from come last. Let's head upstairs to David Croft.
Thank you very much, Simon. Let's pick up on the birthday theme then, with Max Verstappen turning 21 today. It's the second time this season we've seen a Red Bull driver start a Grand Prix on his birthday. Didn't really work out for Daniel Ricciardo in Austria, sadly. He had a DNF against his name. That race, Max Verstappen actually won. So can he join James Hunt and Jean Alesi and become only the 3rd driver in Formula One history to win on his birthday? It's going to be a pretty big ask, isn't it? He starts right down at the back of the grid. Now, we have seen winners from that far back and beyond, actually, in the past. 1983, John Watson at Long Beach won from 22nd on the grid. Rubens Barrichello in 2000 in Germany won from 18th on the grid. Yeah, but 19th, it's going to be a very big ask. Don't forget, though, Max started right at the back in Monaco, still came home to finish in the points. So we'll see what he and Daniel Ricciardo can do today. Maybe it's a slightly better ask for Sebastian Vettel. Needs to re-energise that title campaign. Starts third on the grid from where last year's race winner Valtteri Bottas started in 2017. Bottas on pole today. Vettel right behind him. Watch out, though, for the slipstream and the tow. Long run, kilometre down to the first braking zone. Lewis Hamilton in between them. It could be absolute carnage at the start, so watch out for that one. And these lower track temperatures will surely help those starting on the Hypersoft tyre to elongate that first stint, preserve what is a very, very fragile tyre, and push a little bit harder than they were able to do in Singapore 2 weeks ago. One more thing to say. Fernando Alonso, big anniversary for him today. It's his 306th Grand Prix start, which means he now moves alongside Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button, second on the all-time list, a long way behind Rubens Barrichello. So unless he comes back after a spell in IndyCar, he's probably not going to be the most experienced driver ever, but at least he's second on the list today.
As a few more drops of rain begin to fall here in Sochi, I wonder if that is going to be a factor. Certainly if the weather was coming off the mountains of Caucasus in behind us rather than the Black Sea. Just over there it looks a little bit brighter. It was a good day yesterday for Kevin Magnussen. Starts the furthest forward he has all season in fifth. Gunther Steiner, his boss, is talking to Rachel and Johnny.
Yes, Simon, and we're undercover actually, so we'll have a look at that weather in a moment. I'll just ask Gunther what he's seen, but first of all, Gunther, great qualifying for your two yesterday around this circuit. Why was your car so good?
I didn't hear you, sorry.
Why was your car so good here yesterday in qualifying?
I think it was good all weekend. I mean, we just showed our cars on Saturday, but I don't know why it is good. The car was good in most of the last races, except Singapore, we weren't so good. But in general, we are now in Q3, I think, for at least 8 races in a row. So, Kevin did a very good lap in Q3, and Romain didn't get it 100%, but still a good effort. But no, there's no big secret to it. I think the car is just, that's the level of the car.
Yeah, and again, one lap performance is always a good thing to have in a car. But what about the race today? Who are going to be your biggest threats? Because it looked as if Force India especially from very similar pace to you. Are you expecting that to be your biggest competitor?
I think they're all very close in the top 12, because Renault choose a different strategy with tires, so they will come back during the race. But I think, as you say, the Sauber Leclerc was very good. I mean, the two Force Indias, the same people all the time. So, but it will be quite interesting, because it's very similar pace between all of us.
There's one thing, sorry Rachel, you had in Singapore is obviously in your strategy you got stuck behind those Williams cars. You've got to really get that one corrected this weekend.
Absolutely, you spotted that one good, you know. That what will it make interesting today, how the start goes, what happens after the start, who is blocking up people, and how fast the Hypersoft actually is, for how long, you know. It depends all a little bit, but we don't have the answers yet. They will just come out in the race.
All right, thanks very much, Gunther. Thank you for joining us. All the best for the race this afternoon. Come back to you, Simon.
Good stuff. Now, if you're just joining us for the first time today, over the last hour or so, we've been following Force India on race day, and as they go through their process in the garage with the drivers, the mechanics and the engineers, Ted's now out on the grid with them.
Thank you, Simon. Yes, we are all part of Esteban Ocon's pit crew. So I love this part of the grid, because everybody comes down from their formation laps and stops on the grid, and they're met by their crew. So the crucial thing is keeping the car cool, because the first lap to the grid is all about performance. So the driver pushes on the first lap performance. He has to get a feel for the track conditions, and then the second lap is all about cooling down the car, because it's a much more efficient way of cooling the car by the car being on the track than having to get the old Ghostbuster packs out here full of dry ice and then keeping the car cool. But all the mechanics are right close to the car. We have to be careful where we look, because we step back, we're going to get run over by Sebastian Vettel, and then it's all about pushing the car to the grid spot. Now, what happens now? So we've actually got it here, and then are there areas where we have to push or not have to push? It's all boiling hot.
It's very hot. The heat coming out the back.
Where are we safe? Front, rear wing?
Just on the end here.
Okay, all right. The last thing I want to do as we try and push this car to its position on P6 is actually snap off a bit.
Brazil.
Yeah, snap off a bit of carbon fibre. You've got to watch yourself because there's Kimi Räikkönen over our shoulder. And we've got a traffic jam here with a Haas right in front of us. Pierre Gasly on my right-hand side just there. His car is getting put up on trolleys. Why do we use the trolleys? Is it that much easier? Because other cars actually push the car, other teams push the cars when are just on the floor with the tyre.
It's just so we can get all the brake pans in, the brake pans stay in. And just a little bit easier to manoeuvre.
And how crazy do these grids get? This doesn't look too bad, actually, as far as numbers of people. And who's at the front pushing everyone out the way?
It's crazy, the grid here, isn't it? Trying to get them all the way through to the end. That's why we put them on the skateboards, because the drivers are not confident to steer the way through now.
And what about, have you ever had somebody actually step back? They haven't seen the car coming and stepped on a wing or anything like that?
No, we've been quite fortunate. The guy at the front, Adam, he keeps an eye on things. He gets them out of the way if they need to be.
It's so hot. I can't tell you how boiling it is. This air coming out of the engine here. The car's had to be cooled down. And then just look over our shoulder. Look behind us. And there he is, Sebastian Vettel, wanting to go to his grid spot just ahead of us in the Ferrari. And with a little bit of traffic in the way, although I'm pushing as hard as I can. This is a heavy car, 700 kilos plus, with all the race fuel as well.
Yeah, it's not so bad here. It's rolling quite nicely here. But
well, I'm giving you a hand. And what about what will happen next? So each car has 2 grid trolleys. And when we get to it, 1 grid trolley is for the tyres. So that has to have a 16-amp generator on it. A generator on it with 16 amp. There we go, nicely. That was a long push, I tell you. 16-amp generator powering the tyres and keeping all the tyres hot in here. And then the other one is all about the support stuff, because there will be some computers set up here with complete redundancy. So they'll have 2 sets of the computers. Here we go. We can have a look. And it's all, there's of course some Mercedes, supplied by Mercedes engines. So it's all controlled here by the Mercedes engine technicians. I just love the way on the grid trolleys, we even got a special place for the umbrella. We might actually need that today. So there are 2 computers. They're doing the same thing for each car, but you have to have 2, and there's 1 underneath from each of them if they crash, if they actually go down. So we'll just see what Esteban's going to do now. Stay out of his way. He's going to come down to his area. His trainer is here. He's got his cap on the left. He's got his drink on the left-hand side. And he just has a little bit more time just to calmly take off his crash helmet, and he's going to talk to Brad, his engineer, on the left-hand side. We're not going to get involved in this, because on that first push lap, the first lap to the formation, that was when Ocon would have got a real feel for the track conditions. Second lap was all about cooling the car down, but he seems to think the track conditions are okay. So, well, it's all starting to calm down after quite a frantic period pushing that car to the grid.
Wasn't pushing that hard. Didn't look like he was pushing that hard. What did you used to? What sort of conversation would you be having with the engineer once you've arrived at the grid?
Well, there's a couple of things. Obviously, the practice starts at the end of the pit lane, how engaged the clutch is, if you're feeling like it's engaged enough, or whether you want a bit less, whether you feel like the brakes are working as they should be. But I think more crucially, like you talked about, the only thing they can actually adjust under the part firmware rules is front wing. So what they'll do is when they fill it full of fuel, is just make sure they've got an aero balance that the driver's happy with. Conditions are slightly different to what they were expecting. We're expecting 27 degrees air, which probably would have put the tracks in the mid-40s, but there's been cloud cover all day and even rain compared to what happened. Yeah. But you can see as they come up to the grid, it's just about cooling them. And like I say, he will probably make a front wing adjust based on how he's felt it, Valtteri especially, given he's on the front row, to try and maximise the beginning of this race.
Seemed very, very relaxed, didn't he? Okay, there we go. Lewis Hamilton, we saw on the big screen, actually made an unscheduled, it seemed, return to the pits, but he's out on the grid now, so no problems there. And we'll be hearing from him in a couple of moments' time.
Speed and teamwork, with the fastest pit stops all the way to the finish line. F1 on Sky Sports, brought to you by DHL.
The engine is really the heart of the car, and the fluids that are running through it, it's like the blood, and that's what Petronas provide.
Petronas is the title sponsor of the Mercedes Formula One team. But that's just the visible tip of a much bigger iceberg of work that all happens behind the scenes. They're our technical partner.
As a technical partner, the team intimately takes us into the projects with them. I think our scientists are driven by success, working in an open book manner with the Formula One team, with the expert engineers, with the car designers. We're able to, year on year, bring forward new fuels, new lubricants, which are reducing lap times.
It's incredible to see how well Mercedes and Petronas can really work together. And as a driver, I really like the partnership because it's pure performance for us.
I've brought good grilling to Great Britain because a tasty footy match is like a juicy burger. There's two halves, buns, your star striker, patty, red cards, ketchup, yellow cards, mustard, corners, cheese. No, Morris, no fruit, don't be weird. And to top it all off, a little bet. I'm going each way for a draw.
Don't bet silly, bet savvy.
Knock that off.
Win a share of £25,000 in cash with the new Build Your Bet leaderboard at coral.co.uk. The smart money's on Coral.
I can't pretend to be a great celebrity, but still I'm quite important in my way. I'm the girl that makes the thing that drills the hole that...
Whatever the size of your business, take card payments. Square and fair. Search Square to find out more.
This is Alan. He's an equity release advisor with Age Partnership, and he loves his job. Through rain or shine, he helps people access the money they've built up in their home. Alan gets to explain to homeowners over 55 how they can release tax-free money from their home, how they would not have to repay the money until they passed away or moved into long-term care, and how they would clear any existing mortgage. Alan compares the whole market to get his customers the best deal. Speak to Age Partnership, the UK's #1 equity release advisor, to request your free guide on 0880 555 888 or use our equity release calculator at agepartnership.co.uk.
There's a few things you need to be a top host.
Tea from England, Justin Rose.
Number 1, invest in the right company. No one likes a room full of bores. 2, surroundings. Guests need to feel right at home.
That has brought the house down.
Number 3, atmosphere. Remember, everyone lives for the weekend. Finally, entertainment. Give your guests a time they'll never forget.
Go on, go on. What's a way to finish?
Over to you, Justin Rose, your host for the 2018 Sky Sports British Masters.
For their sake, let's pass on plastic. Sky Ocean Rescue.
About 25 minutes to go till lights out here in Russia. The grandstand's beginning to fill up, so too the grid, and Mercedes have locked out the front row. Valtteri Bottas on pole, the 6th of his career and 2nd this season, and Lewis Hamilton alongside him. But Hamilton has been really relaxed all week coming into this event because he's 40 points clear of Vettel, who starts from 3rd, and he was relaxed when he met Anthony Davis in the second part of the chat we screened yesterday in Borneo last week.
Let's try.
Places we have to come to find you.
How you doing, man?
Yeah, really good.
I have watched the lap over and over again. It just goes on and on and on. But I was just living comfortably on the margin that I, on the limit for that lap. I don't know why.
You've launched a range of Tommy Hilfiger clothing. That's kept you busy and happy as well, I guess.
Oh, it's been so busy. I remember being here actually in Malaysia, and we're driving down the highway to the city, and I remember seeing a huge billboard of Gigi with Tommy Hilfiger, and I was like, and I started seeing it everywhere, and I was like, damn, that's the best campaign there is. And then just, it's crazy. That's what I want to do. I'd love to design something one day, and that's what he said he wanted to do with me. All the models, it was very, very diverse, which was what I asked for. I really, really think that it was colorful and powerful today. The reason I'm even able to do the fashion thing is because of Formula One. Formula One has created the platform to do all these other things.
How are you going to approach this then, the next 6 races, leading the championship like you are by 40 points?
Yeah, I just take it really one race at a time.
So you're still going to go for those victories?
Yeah, yeah. Because I think, honestly, the victories that I've had, I've not, and if I really look at from kind of China or shortly after China onwards, I've found a really nice balance. And I don't feel like I'm risking anything when I'm on the race weekend. It's not like I'm going too far to cause me trouble. I'm just knocking at that 100% door, you know, and I don't think we should change anything because it's working really well at the moment. The way we work with my mechanics, my engineers, that formula's working, so there's just no need to adapt it right now.
We see the young drivers coming through, you know, the Max Verstappens of the world. They have the speed, it's clear to see, just like you did when you first burst onto the scene in Formula One.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at Max, and he's a great driver, but I see myself there. I know what it's like when you're young. So when people say, yeah, he's making mistakes, I'm like, who didn't make mistakes at 18 years old, 20 years old?
And he's there younger than, say, we were when we arrived as well.
So I really sympathise with the experience that he's having and the things people say. And, you know, he's on his own journey. He'll make whatever mistakes he makes and take leaps and bounds, whatever he decides to, you know.
You know, it does become a mental game when you're fighting against people with similar and equal levels of talent, or at least speed.
It is a huge mental game.
How do you keep yourself at that level time and time again this season?
I've always had that belief in myself, but it's really about, I would say I'm more confident in my abilities and as a man than I have ever been. In terms of how, when I wake up and I leave the house, my confidence level is a million times greater than it was when I was in 2007 or when I was younger. You know, in those times, there was insecurities, there was unhappiness, there was pressures that I didn't quite understand. I was being pulled from this length, from this side, from family, you know, and I couldn't find a balance. You know, I'm my own man now.
If you can win this championship this year, do you think it will be your finest?
I do think so. I mean, I think it's been my finest year so far, in all honesty. I finished last year and I was really happy with the performance. But you look at every year, I didn't win every race. Wasn't perfect. And so every year you're trying to, how do I take it to another level? How do I drive just as good as I did the previous year, but raise the bar again? And there will always be ways for me to raise the bar again the next year. That's the great thing of life. But I do feel this has been one of the most complete years up until this point, even if it didn't start off perfect. And with this battle that we've had, this serious challenge with another 4-time world champion, yeah, if it goes the way I'm working on it and planning for it to go, then I think it would be, it definitely would be the most satisfying one.
Yeah, you'd think he's potentially got one hand on the trophy, just the way that Mercedes is comparing to the Ferrari right now. Now, we mentioned earlier the change in asphalt. We thought it was, it actually looks like this is the change. They've resurfaced from here forward, haven't they, Paul? How much of a disadvantage are those starting behind this going to factor in?
Yeah, you can see the line. It's absolutely perfect. If Vettel pulls up that yellow line in front of his front wheel, which is his marker when he's in the cockpit, actually, his rear wheels are just on it. Yeah. And always new tarmac, for some reason, just gives more grip. You can see the older stuff is a little bit more porous, it's a bit less flat, and just when you spin them up, obviously you can see the thick black lines just in front of Kimi, whereas there it's just a bit darker and everything should work a bit more.
Can I walk with you, Brendan? A bit of a tricky one for you today. You had to take those extra power unit penalties, yeah?
Sorry, what was the question?
You had to take the extra power unit penalties, so it's got a tricky day from the back, yeah?
It will, but yeah, we had some pretty good race pace, so let's see. We'll try and roll the dice early on and see what happens, but yeah, I was always starting from P20 today. Yesterday was a bit of a non-event.
Okay, how far forward do you think you can get?
I don't know. I'd love to score another point, mate. I've only got a couple on the board, so.
Okay, mate. Top man. Let's just move over to K-Mag.
Kevin, how's it feeling ahead of today? Good start position?
Yeah, good starting position. Long run to turn 2, so good start is important, and then we'll take it from there.
What's happening with the weather? Because there's been a little bit of rain in the air in the F2 race. Is it going to come back?
No idea. It wasn't supposed to rain even in the F2 race, so looks a little bit unpredictable, but we'll take it as it comes.
I'll let you get on it, so I know we've got a minute to go till the anthem. Yeah, it's quite an interesting one. It's in behind. We're going to see some nice battles today. Magnussen, Ocon, Leclerc, some of the young guns.
Yeah, they are. They've got it to fight out, and of course the Red Bulls aren't in that equation either, so they need to be careful not to get too involved with the cars at front, because it's a big advantage to a constructor's position, especially for somebody like Force India, who are trying to claw back on Haas and the likes of McLaren as well.
Yeah, they certainly are, but Kevin Magnussen continues, doesn't he? His fine form this season been really good.
He has really turned it around, I must say. He's quietly been doing it in the background as well. He pulls out some big results, which is what exactly Haas, why they want that consistency, they want him to carry on, and against Grosjean is good.
Okay, quick one from Sebastian Vettel.
Seb, did you see the start of the F2 race? P3's a good position again.
Maybe.
Are you still...
Well, he's a man in a rush, there's no doubt about it. Sebastian Vettel. It's time for the anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a few moments' time, the national anthem of Russia will be sung in the presence of our dignitaries and honoured guests: Ross Brawn, Managing Director, Motorsports Formula One; Dmitry Kozak, Deputy Prime Minister of the Russian Federation; Veniamin Kondratiev, Governor of the Krasnodar region; Viktor Kiryanov, President of the Russian Automobile Federation; Andrei Kostin, President and Chairman of VTV, along with all of the Formula One drivers taking part in today's Grand Prix. Now please be upstanding for the national anthem of Russia.
Россия, священная наша держава, Россия, любимая наша страна, могучая воля, великая слава, твое достояние на все времена.
With you, you had to take a gearbox penalty, I understand, but it's not looking too bad for you today, is it?
Can you repeat that? I didn't understand you.
Just saying, not looking too bad. You had to take the gearbox penalty, but what's achievable today?
We'll see. I mean, it's quite an interesting grid with a lot of cars out of position, so hopefully that can play in our advantage, as well as the Hypersoft. You know, the guys that went into the top 10 with the Hypersoft, hopefully the degradation should be a bit higher than expected today, so we'll see.
What do you want for the rest of your season here, Stockley? You've got 6 races to go. I'm sure desperate to prove yourself.
I mean, I want to just finish on a high and, yeah, really enjoy my last couple of 6 races here with McLaren. So, no, one race to go today.
Top man, go well today. Appreciate it. Let's go to Paul, who's got Max.
Max, have you had any birthday cake today yet?
I didn't eat it. I don't know. I just didn't have the time, but it actually looked quite good.
What can be done today, Max, from starting way back where you are?
Well, we are targeting to finish still 5th and 6th, so we have a bit of work to do, but I think the pace of the car should be all right. It just depends how we can get through traffic also with the tire management, because I think that's not easy around here.
And you enjoy driving at this place?
It's a bit further back, but at least we have something to do. You know, normally on this track we are running 5th and 6th, so a bit boring.
Well, hopefully we can celebrate it on the way back tonight. Enjoy. Just going to have a look for Simon wherever he's got to, but we're heading up to the back of the grid. You can obviously see the 2 Williams are obviously in the midfield, which is a bit unusual for them where they've been starting recently. The Renaults are obviously around. They've got a free tyre choice exactly as well. But obviously ahead of them is the Saubers. And we're heading way down.
Right, let's head upstairs. I think we can hear from Valtteri Bottas.
Just quickly, Exactly, Valtteri. What's your thoughts on the start here? Because we saw in the F2 race, P3 go for pole, and you've got that tarmac that could be tricky.
Yeah, I think it could, but all I need is a good getaway from the line. That's the main thing, and then we see. But I'll try everything to keep that place.
Good luck.
Otmar, we've been following your team for the last hour or so, going through the processes with the mechanics and the engineers. Just tell us about your role on race day, what you do for the hour and a half before lights out.
I spent most of it reminding the drivers not to crash into each other. And apart from that, just make sure everything's working fine. We stick to our plans and then go sit on the pit wall and help a little bit with strategy.
We know that was the messaging from Singapore after your drivers came together. They're in close proximity again, so I'm sure you've reminded them. But it looks good. Obviously, it was a blip last time. You're surging through, or upwards through the Constructors' Championship. What do you think is achievable today?
Yeah, no, the thing is, just like in Singapore here, the strategy will be really important, and it'll also be really important to see how long the Hypersofts last.
There's some interesting racing in between. You've got K-Mag, you've got Charles Leclerc. In behind those top four, it looks like it could be a throw a minute today.
Yeah, well, the other thing is our immediate competitors, apart from Renault, are all starting on the same tire we are. So if we can outrace the guys around us and get through the field after the pit stops, we'll have a good chance.
Okay, thanks for your time. Let's hear from one of your drivers a little earlier. Sergio Perez spoke with Rachel.
You're right to talk. Sergio, starting from P8 today, but you've got a real battle on, haven't you, with those Haas today and that Sauber in front of you?
Yeah, it's going to be a hard race, but I'm looking forward to it, the people outside the top 10 as well, being on the better strategy. It's going to be an interesting one for us.
How do you approach a race with such a mixed-up grid as well? Because you're not just looking forward, you're looking in your mirrors too, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, it's so important to make sure that we try to stick to our plan and see, hopefully, we make it work.
Thank you.
Johnny, he's been out-qualified, Sergio Perez. 11 of the last 13 by Esteban Ocon. We know Perez is a solid driver. Continue to feel sorry for him with what's happening to him. Hopefully he can get placed next year.
Well, exactly. I think that is what everybody wants to see. You want to see the very, very best on the grid, and the way he's sort of matured this year. And like you said, his stats against his teammate are absolutely brilliant. And the strength of this guy is only going to get more and more, and I think that's what's going to be, I think, a good thing for us today as well, because racecraft, he's got a lot of that.
You prefer not to have a sabbatical, but Toto Wolff was admitting that is a likelihood. I'm sure they'll be desperate to try to place it in Williams, but whether that will materialise or not, we'll wait and see. They've still not announced their driver lineup. They are waiting on that. Let's get the views of Fernando Alonso again a little earlier with Rachel.
Fernando, a quick word about the race this afternoon. Is there much you can do, or is it going to be quite a long one for you?
It could be a long one. I think we need some kind of events that happen in the race. I think by pure performance we are not quick enough maybe to win the points, but yeah, the race is long. We will be focused. There is some rain around and things like that that can change the race even at the end in the last couple of laps, so we need to be there and hopefully see some points.
I was going to ask you if you've seen whether or not that rain's going to fall. We've seen it on the radar, but it looks as though it could miss and could hit.
Yeah, I think we are pessimistic on that. I think we don't see the rain coming enough, to wet the track. But as I said, let's see what we can do, what we can learn today. But knowing that it's going to be a tough one.
We'll do a rain dance for you.
Hopefully, start.
Take care.
Well, it has actually started. It's strange. The sun is out right now, but there are a few spots of rain falling. I mean, I don't think it's enough to change them at all. I mean, this isn't going to affect tyre choice at all.
Oh, no. This isn't going to affect anything at the moment. I think the guys have got enough radar systems to look at it. But actually, we know the weather has been coming from the Black Sea, and it's been coming across towards us rather than it coming from the hills behind us.
Yeah, this is just a rogue black cloud hovering above us. What can you tell us, Ted?
A couple of things on Mercedes. First of all, Lewis Hamilton's oily engine continues. You can see the rags in the little tray underneath. They've been wiping the oil off that for the whole time he's been on the grid. Not so on Valtteri Bottas, interestingly. Doesn't seem to be leaking oil out the back, but they are absolutely preoccupied, these Mercedes guys, about the amount of grip on this new bit of tarmac. And in the secondary bit, I get the feeling they're petrified of Ferrari getting the jump on them at the start, and so they should be.
Thanks, Ted. Let's hear from Carlos Sainz.
your choice of tyres. Is that going to be a big advantage around here? Because those starting on the Hypersofts are going to have to get rid of them pretty quickly.
Well, time will tell, no? The race will tell if we've done the right move or not. We've obviously going to suffer in the first laps with a stiffer compound. It will be a bit of a challenge. But then from lap 5, 6, we calculate that we should start coming back on them. They should pit a lot earlier than us, so hopefully we get it back then.
All right, have a good race. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, Sainz the furthest forward with free tyre choice. Just a quick one. We know that they were having the conversation. Do you think team orders are going to be applied?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's an obvious thing, and I think but Valtteri knows that for sure. He can't hold up his teammate. This World Championship is so important for the team.
Okay, sun is shining. The raindrops have abated. We're just about set for the Russian Grand Prix.
Precision engineering. Gillette sponsors Sky Sports F1.
Muhammad Ali did not invent boxing. Elvis did not invent rock and roll. And we did not invent the electric car. No, we did something very different. We injected it with the Audi DNA, combined Audi's intelligence and performance. It's electric, but not as you know it.
A week, a month, a year, whatever life throws at you, whatever life throws at you. Oh my dear, I am here.
Every day, we help your business relationships stay on track. BT, be there.
Half a dozen races to go in this 2018 Formula One season. Let's hope for 6 of the best as we approach round 16 of 21. Welcome along to Sochi by the shores of the Black Sea and the Russian Grand Prix. Mercedes, so far 100% in Russia. This the 5th running in the World Championship of this race. Can Ferrari topple them today? In Russia's most popular resort, the country's unofficial summer capital, there is sunshine today. There is sun about, but there's also a few drops of rain in the air as well. We're here at the 2014 Winter Olympic Park. It cost 40 billion euros to build. There are 6 venues from the Winter Olympics that our track winds its way around. The Olympic flame long since extinguished, but it's going to be red hot. The action on the track this afternoon. It's a 3.63-mile circuit. There are 2 DRS zones. One of them, along the main straight, has been lengthened this season to try and promote a little bit more overtaking. 18 corners, 6 to the left and 12 to the right, and a lap time at full throttle for 50% of those 3.5 miles. Down at turn 2, the first braking zone, there's always chaos. We've had opening lap safety cars in the last 3 years as well. Danny Kvyat in 2016 going into Sebastian Vettel, not once, but twice. Round turn 3, you've got to be careful. Don't get on the marbles as Romain Grosjean did. There's no coming back from that, and you're likely to end up into the barriers. And Carlos Sainz braking at a very fast part of the track into turn 13, found the barriers very close as well in 2015. The Hypersoft tyre, the fastest tyre that Pirelli have in their stock, is once again seen here on the track along with the Ultra Soft tyre and the soft tyre as well. And this is the starting grid then for the Russian Grand Prix, with Valtteri Bottas taking pole for the 2nd time this season alongside his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes locking out the front row, Ferrari locking out row 2. Don't forget last year's winner, Valtteri Bottas, started 3rd. Kevin Magnussen equals his career best from this season, 5th on the grid. He's got alongside him Esteban Ocon, who out-qualified his teammate Sergio Perez again. Charles Leclerc was Sauber's best ever qualifying in the turbo hybrid era. Marcus Ericsson got into Q3 for the first first time since Monza 2015. He keeps Romain Grosjean company, and then the two Renault boys of Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg. Sergei Sorokin and Lance Stroll are Williams row, but they were the slowest cars in Q1. Many cars taking a penalty. Stoffel Van Dorn for a new gearbox. Fernando Alonso for a brand new engine. Pierre Gasly, a new engine for him too. And Daniel Ricciardo in the Red Bull. Max Verstappen on his 21st birthday, another to take an engine penalty. Brendan Hartley had not one, but two new power units. That's why he starts at the back. And on his 21st birthday, what can Max Verstappen do from 19th on the grid? I think a decent top 6 finish will be the best birthday present he could possibly wish for, Paul di Resta.
Exactly, I think that's what he can hope for. Even in the top 5, I think realistically is what they could make it to do. But Max is upbeat. You know, he's going to fight all the way to the very end of this Grand Prix, but he's got his teammate for company, so whoever gets kind of through turns 2 and 3, which are the tricky parts and showed up in the support races we've got, and then from there on he'll start picking them up. But it's not an easy overtake.
No, it is not an easy overtake here. What can Kimi Raikkonen do? A support role, you would imagine, to his teammate Sebastian Vettel. He's 40 points behind in the championship, Paul. He needs to re-energise that championship challenge. You can win here from 3rd, but Valtteri Bottas is the only man to ever win here from below the front row. It's going to be a tough ask, but is Ferrari set up for the race today, not qualifying, and will we see better pace?
I'm not sure they're going to see better pace, but if they can get into the lead by turn 2 or 3, I think they could win this race, although I think the Mercedes would make it difficult for them. But that run down to turn 2, it is so long. The Ferrari starts have been very good, and we saw not too long ago that Sebastian Vettel was able to put that move on to Hamilton in Spa and make it stick. It's all about how they got off the line. He's got the grippy tarmac just in front of him. Raikkonen probably at a slightly disadvantage from that, but you know, they're on the ultra soft tyre.
Right, ultra softs for the top 4. Hyper softs from Magnussen down to Ericsson. Soft compound tyres for Sainz and Hülkenberg. No surprise there. Renault going very long in their first stint. After them, Sorokin down to Alonso on the ultra soft. Pace from behind, and then Gasly, Ricciardo, Verstappen on the soft, and Hartley on the hyper soft, trying something very different right from the back. So those going long as we set off on our formation lap. The two Renaults who could rather get in the way of the leading runners, Paul. When they pit, the likes of Valtteri Bottas, chances are Hülkenberg and Sainz are still going to be out there with track position.
Yeah, the Renaults definitely won't be able to hold them up. That'll be the last of the worries. Especially with DRS, it's very effective on both sides of the track, and they have lengthened it this year, especially to try and enhance overtaking.
So, on the formation lap then, there is the Drivers' Championship. 40 points between Hamilton and Vettel. Raikkonen and Bottas, whilst not mathematically out of it, are pretty much effectively out of it. So, are both playing a support role today. Is Valtteri Bottas expected to support his teammate, or starting from pole, can he go out and win this?
I think the Mercedes will be supporting each other more than anybody. I get the feeling that Kimi Raikkonen is not that keen given he's moving on to help Vettel, but listen, they are great mates. They always travel together on their private planes to races, but when it comes down to business, when the helmet's on, you can see there's a clear distinction. They want to win.
But what would you do if you're Valtteri Bottas? Say you've got 10 laps to go, you're leading, your teammate's second. Would you move over if asked? Will he be asked to move aside?
No one person is bigger than the team. It's always what we say, and it's always what the team principals will say. But Valtteri knows this, and there's guys coming up the junior formulas. Toto speaking very highly of Ocon, he's speaking highly of Russell. He needs to make sure he's a team player. And equally, if the tables return next year, would Lewis support him?
The formation lap ever look around turn 10. Some rain was reported there, should be fine, but
we've seen just a few little spits and spots.
I was just going to say, in the background of one of the shots, there's rain on top of the hill, so yeah. It wasn't supposed to rain in the F2, and it was enough to make them go onto wets, and slicks really struggled. It would have been perfect if it happened in this Grand Prix.
I saw you running off the grid. I wondered if you were just running to get up here, or whether you were trying to dodge the showers almost.
Running to get up here, Crofty.
Martin Brundle taking a couple of races off. Martin, good afternoon to you. Paul di Resta alongside me in the commentary box. We'll have Johnny Herbert and Sky Race Control as well. There are those very moody clouds, Paul, that you were talking about. The F2 race this morning was an absolute thriller when the rain came in. Will we get that here this afternoon, I wonder?
The most exciting bit of this race is through turn 1 down into turn 2 and 3, and then what develops from there in the strategy. Red Bull are saying it's going to be very fragile. The tyres are going to grain. They're going to be stopping. Maybe even probably a 2-stop push today. Then you hear from other teams, easy 1-stop. So it's right on the edge. And the information is very different to what we predicted, because the track temperatures are that bit lower. Are the cars more set up for the hot weather. But you can see both guys pulling up to the grid, both Mercedes pulling into their spot, and Hamilton did his last burnout to try and get that extra heat in the rear tyres.
So we've had an opening lap safety car here, 2015, 2016 and 2017 as well. Will we get one this time around? Valtteri Bottas on pole, where in the last 11 races he's finished where he has started in 6 of them. That happens today. He'll go home from Sochi a very happy man indeed. Lewis Hamilton, 1 lap away from leading 300 laps in 2018. Sebastian Vettel starting from where Valtteri Bottas won from last year here in Sochi. Kimi Räikkönen alongside him. How much of a nuisance a Magnussen, an Ocon going to be starting from row 3? All the ingredients are there. Let's see what the Russian Grand Prix serves up this afternoon. It's lights out and away we go. Great start from Sebastian Vettel. He's already alongside Lewis Hamilton, and now it's a long drag down towards turn 2. Bottas leads. It's wheel to wheel. Hamilton and Vettel. Hamilton is now pulling away as they now brake for the first time, and on the inside Valtteri Bottas trying to go around the outside Lewis Hamilton. Then Vettel and Räikkönen and then Magnussen as well, ahead of Roman Grosjean, who's got a decent start. Round turn 3 we go. Bottas, Hamilton and Vettel. Kimi Räikkönen settles into 4th, and down towards turn 4, another braking zone. Magnussen just staying ahead of Charles Leclerc, who's up there for the Sauber. Great start there from Valtteri Bottas and from Hamilton and Vettel.
Yeah, and the Saubers picked up the place in the Force India, but I just wanted to show how critical it was. Vettel got a better start than Hamilton, and then Hamilton was able to pick that slipstream up on Bottas and managed to even challenge him down to turn 2, but it looked like no team orders because they were racing each other.
It certainly did. On the first lap, no team orders so far. Ocon just ahead of Sergio Perez. The Force India's unscathed so far. Grosjean just behind Sergio Perez trying to make a move. Marcus Ericsson staying ahead of the 2 Renaults as well, and already Daniel Ricciardo down in 19th has lost a place to Brendan Hartley. Max Verstappen has made his way up into 13th so far. It's been an excellent pit exit here. You can see it just goes on forever and ever. Here's Magnussen coming down the straight, and, well... He was running right down towards the rear of the field, in fact running plumb last at the moment as he comes out onto the racetrack. The nearest car to him will be actually Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas is a long, long way ahead of him in terms of distance covered so far. We're on board with Lewis Hamilton. 1.3 seconds the distance between himself and Valtteri Bottas. He closes it in, but then Bottas extends again.
Yeah, if you're James Vowles sitting on that pit wall, to have that comfort when you come into the pit stop, to have that margin that if they have a mistake, the Ferrari can jump on them. Bottas is kind of spoiling that race for them in the championship. But team orders, they're obviously happy for it to continue the way it is.
So James Vowles, the chief strategist at Mercedes, does he need Bottas to either extend his pace, or does he need Hamilton to get past him?
Or they need to let Lewis stop early just to have that buffer, don't they?
So undercuts maybe, even though he's already ahead. We've got Marcus Ericsson coming into the pits for Sauber. The pit window very much open here. Should be a one-stop race. Track temperature now up to 31 degrees, which is more akin to how the teams are expecting it to be this afternoon.
You can see the initial signs of a front blister coming in the middle of Lewis Hamilton's front left tyre. You can just see it's not consistent around the whole circumference of the tyre, but it's there. And that's when it's starting to open up the compound. And at this point, that's when it starts to get a bit more difficult, because obviously you're trying to save them, but then you need to push because you need to gain the lap time. And I'm just watching how everything's developing here. When Lewis is obviously behind Bottas, he's going to have a bit more understeer, but obviously the Mercedes crew imminently ready to do a pit stop.
Meanwhile, whilst we've been concentrating on the front four, Max Verstappen still very much going about his business in the way that we've seen so far, except he hasn't got any cars to overtake, but he is now only 12 seconds behind Kimi Räikkönen. Now, Hamilton takes the lead of this Russian Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas making the first stop.
And that's where Ferrari should have been in that lap. They should have been pushing. They would have done a faster out lap and jumped Hamilton.
So, soft compound tyres going on. Should Ferrari have been nice and aggressive here? They haven't. They've decided not to. Let's see how that works out. It could be that Vettel's still got enough pace.
Yeah, they should have followed them in, though. Why not? We saw the benefits that Magnussen had versus the Force India.
And Bottas coming out, as you would expect, behind Max Verstappen.
And that's where he's going to probably stop, and that's maybe why Ferrari looking at it. This is where Mercedes are in a bit of a unique scenario. They can take the risk with Bottas trying to get by him, but obviously with Hamilton in the championship, they just need to mirror everything Vettel does and be one step in front.
Very true. Verstappen here is going to be a bit of a thorn in the side for the top four. They might not have been expecting.
He's out there for the long game as well, the long game.
Sergio Perez pits. It's Kevin Magnussen and Perez's teammate Esteban Ocon just coming around the final corner now. You can see them in the background of your screens. And it's such a long pit lane exit here. I don't know if they can do anything about it or try and find a different way to feed these cars onto the track.
Perez must have had a monster run there. Look how much closer he is to the back of Ocon, given that he's done 2 extra laps in that Hypersoft tyre as well. So we did say he's got a wise head when it comes to it. He's been on the podium at this track as well before.
He certainly has. Sergio Perez, not a bad record indeed, on the podium in 2015, started 7th, came home 3rd.
Look at Hamilton reacting to get some clear space. Purple in sector 1, best of anybody. A green sector 2, so he showed he still had potential there. And look, Ferrari have pulled it. So are they going to be able to jump him? They need a clean pit stop now, a great outlap, and this is where the real race is.
Right. So Sebastian Vettel needs his crew to give him the fastest possible change of tyres they could ever wish to give him. Hamilton continues to lead this race. He's now led 300 laps this season. Vettel stops, Räikkönen goes into 2nd place now. He stays out. Valtteri Bottas comes around the penultimate corner.
And Crofty, crucially, Bottas on his outlap was able to go 6/10ths quicker in sector 2. So if Vettel can do that in sector 3 and sector 2, he takes a challenge to Mercedes, who need a perfect pit stop after that 2.8 by Ferrari.
So Vettel losing out possibly to Valtteri Bottas in this exchange, but in terms of the championship challenge, it could well be that by taking this move to pit before Lewis Hamilton, Vettel could regain the upper hand.
And Hamilton...
Lewis, just keep it up. We're going to monitor what you're doing.
do Mercedes need to bring Hamilton in on this lap?
Yes, they do, because look, they've caught traffic, and look, Hamilton's first sector is 3.5 tenths off what his best was the lap before was. So is he going to get held up by the car in front, which I believe is a Williams?
The Williams of Sergei Sorokin, and the trouble here, Paul, is he might just be able to be about to get held up at exactly the place you don't want, in the final sector at the end of the long back straight, where Sorokin's going to struggle to get out of the way quickly.
Yeah, and look, they're reacting. They don't care what you say, but that was close enough to be losing downforce and losing performance. This is going to be close. It could even go on the run to turn 2 and 3. Vettel getting a run. What's Vettel done in the middle sector?
Well, Sebastian Vettel, we'll find out in a couple of seconds, needs something to go his way in this championship challenge. And so far in this race, he's played second fiddle to Bottas and to Hamilton.
And look, he's went how much quicker? He's a second quicker, Crofty.
He is. So Sebastian Vettel now making his way into the final sector as they wait at Mercedes for Lewis Hamilton. Quick stop from the lads.
I think Ferrari might just be very close to this. I'm just watching the driver tracker.
Well, let's have a look then, because Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel coming round the penultimate corner now as Hamilton at 60 kilometres an hour makes his way down the pit lane. There's Max Verstappen behind Kimi Räikkönen. Here's Sebastian Vettel and here's Valtteri Bottas.
They've done it.
Bottas goes past Hamilton. Sebastian Vettel, will he go past Hamilton or not? It's going to be wheel to wheel going into the second corner. Hamilton on the inside. Sebastian Vettel round the outside. Sebastian Vettel gets past Lewis Hamilton, and for once, Ferrari's race strategy works in their favour, and that man, however far he's travelled this afternoon, it is well worth the effort, because his man is now ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari's strategy working. Hamilton's got to get past Vettel on the track.
And was Bottas trying to back him up, but they done enough, and for us, exactly what Mercedes couldn't afford to do.
And that is a question I think Lewis Hamilton is entirely free to ask.
We said it 3 laps ago, Crofty.
Ted, down to you.
Just to make it, I'm sure you saw, just to make it even harder for Hamilton on his exit from his pit box, Ferrari did a dummy stop for Kimi Räikkönen. Came out, blocked the pit lane, everybody out there with tyres, thought, oh, maybe we won't pit him. Came back in, but it was too late. Hamilton had to he didn't have an easy out, let's just put it that way.
Ted, where did Ferrari get that idea of bluffing at pit stops from? Where have you seen that?
Oh, Sebastian Vettel's just ran wide. He's locked up at the end of the back straight because Hamilton had DRS. This might not be over, this battle. And he's not going to have DRS from Bottas because he's lost that momentum as well.
I don't think it's over for 1 second, Paul di Resta. We're on lap 15 of 53 here. And in the Championship Challenge, Sebastian Vettel, 40 points behind, needs to start making inroads onto Lewis Hamilton's lead. Now, as it stands at the moment, he's only gained 3 points on him, but it's a start, isn't it, for him? As down the main straight we go, Kimi Räikkönen leads this race, by the way, from Max Verstappen. Valtteri Bottas is in third, Sebastian Vettel fourth, then Hamilton, and Hamilton is coming back at him, and he's got a great toe. Oh, and he wanted to go down the inside, but there wasn't room, and at the last moment just had to back off. How they didn't touch there, I don't know, but Hamilton's going for it again towards turn 4. Has he got enough on the Ferrari? Under braking to squeeze down the inside. Hamilton's done it! Lewis Hamilton gets past Sebastian Vettel for the second time of asking. That was brilliant racing from both drivers.
That was absolutely inch perfect, and it just shows you how much better that car is. The momentum he was able to carry through turn 3 into turn 4. Hamilton getting the job done. World class, and a move again to get on top of Ferrari.
Down the main straight though,